Welcome to Optimal Game State. Today I'm looking at the Runes Perdition scenery set from the team over at miniwargaming.com. They were kind enough to send a selection of the scenery for free to me to review, but I can say anything I want about it, and I'm not being paid to do so. Now, they did previously release the SDLs for this terrain on my mini factory, and now what they're doing is they're running a Kickstarter for anyone who isn't able to print it themselves, or where they'll print it in their forge, and then they'll send it out to you. This is a set of Gothic style runes, and it ticks the boxes for what you expect with a game of 40k. Now, it is quite similar in some regards to Sector Imperialis terrain, but from what I can tell, the goal here is to make setting up the tournament terrain requirements. So basically what you're probably going to be playing for a game 40k a little bit easier. So here you can see that this Nexus, a Pride Nexus Battles board has 10 distinct sections of terrain. If you were going to be doing that with the Sector Imperialis, that is definitely going to add up, and it's going to be difficult to store, and it's going to, I guess, take a while to get ready. This is what is going to be, as I understand it, their full board pledge from the Kickstarter. So I think you can start with this amount of terrain, or basically the amount of terrain I've got, which is about half of that. So I'm a little bit more interested in the skirmish side of things, and that's what I said to the guys. The great thing about this is it does flat or pack down flat. So as you saw with the magnets, you can kind of pull it apart. You can then store it in a much more reasonable amount of space than you would if it was all assembled. And yeah, and as someone living in a flat, that is super, super important to me. But I imagine it's also important for like a store owner or a tournament organizer where they have like multiple sets of these kits. It also means that you can reconfigure these, so you can put them together in different ways, which I think is quite cool. And obviously, you can do like one big, massive building. You could do multiple stories, or you can kind of spread it out and do lots of different things on it. You're not locked into a single configuration at this point. Okay, so let's have a quick look at how this works. So here we have a roof, we have two walls, and we have a corner pillar. The corner pillar has magnets in it. Now, you won't get the magnets in it when you get it. You'll have to glue them in yourself. They will be part of the Kickstarter. I would recommend picking them up from the guys because for me, they were non-standard. So these are 3/16 inch diameters and 1/16 inch deep. Now I'm used to 5mm by 2mm. That's typically what I end up using because I find it easy to get. These are actually 4.76mm and 1.59 deep. So yeah, the 2mm are deeper and just slightly wider. When I was going through this, I did actually have a few extra bits and pieces to magnetize. So the amount of magnets I got weren't enough, and I did end up using a few of the 5x2s. I just needed to drill a little bit, which was annoying and a frustration. So keep an eye on those magnets if you're ordering this Runes Perdition kit. Yeah, get some extra magnets while you're at it. And look, they're magnets, they're going to be useful even if you get too many. So err on the side of caution, my recommendation. But we're looking at how this system works. When I was doing it, I made sure that I had this little one. So this is red on one side and blue on the other side. Doesn't matter which positive or negative. Just make sure that all of your magnets are all the same polarity in the pillar. And then we do the exact same, but we make sure it is the opposite polarity. So these are all the opposite polarity in the wall edges. Now what I actually found was useful was I clicked here, and because I always knew out, what I would do is I would get extra magnets like this, and then I would press them in and then just slide it out and keep doing that. You put glue into them, a little bit of super glue in, and there was a recommendation to mini wargaming guys to have a guide on how to do magnetizing. Basically said the same as I said. They were also recommending using an accelerator, whether that's a spray one or a baking soda. Yeah, you can use baking soda as an accelerator. As an aside, there is one of these that's a T, And so you have one here, one here, and then one here. I couldn't get my one in the middle in because the magnet kept bouncing out. But I've been assured that if you use the accelerator, you'd be able to get it locked in for long enough to hold it in there, and then it'll go in. Anyway, we're looking at how this works. I mean, it's obvious, right? Okay, so we've got corners. Corners lock in place. Turn it around. I need to flip this one back around like that. And for some of your scenery, it's just going to sit like that. You're just going to have your classic corner walls. But if you do want to put in your roof segment, you've got the notches. And they go in like that. So let's put this one in here. Then we're going to slot this one in over here too. Okay. Nice and sturdy. Yeah, lock that back in again. It is nice and sturdy. And it is pretty big. So this is, notably, this is quite large. So that's about, yeah, that is 5 inches tall. And the way they've got the scenery set up is all of it like that. Now, you do have the option to put more connectors in. So, let's see if I can grab one. So here's one that isn't a corner connector. It's just a line connector. So we can connect that in there. And then we can put something else at the end. So you can expand it out to be as wide as you want, and then you're able to kind of get those. You'll be able to basically fill out the areas you want. Now, another thing that you can do is obviously you can put stuff up top. There isn't any system to lock these in, but it is stable enough. And if you put a corner one in there, obviously it's going to be a little bit more stable. Get a corner one of this. Oh, this is my 3-way one. I haven't quite managed to sort that one out yet. But yeah, even if we put in that's not being used for a corner, it does make it a little bit more stable. Yeah, so probably worth having the corners on those, or what you might even do is you might even blue tack them down. But there isn't a system to do the next levels, but yeah, it's not that bad. Okay, that's the system. Let's have, oh, and now, another thing I wanted to have a look at is, this is FDM printing. I have made no efforts to improve it. So one of the things that you can do is you can use a primer that's more of a filler primer, is what they call it. I think you see it with cars. And basically, because there's little layers, it helps sort that out. Now, you're not going to be able to file these down, sand these down like you might with some others. And yeah, I did zenithal highlight with a light gray, so it might be picking it up a little bit more. So that's kind of the quality you're getting. You know, it is what it is. This is kind of, it is really good FDM quality as far as I'm aware. But it's still, you know, if that is something that you're going to focus on, if that's not going to bother you, those lines are in there. But once you get on the table, I don't think you're going to notice it as much. But it is something to be aware of. It is the big concern for me, the big problem with this campaign is that it's FDM printing. That's not something I think you can necessarily avoid. In theory, it could be resin printed, but obviously that's going to significantly increase the price. Now, if that's something you want to do, I do believe you should be able to get the STLs and arrange for it to be resin printed yourself as a option. Okay. Yeah, right. Let's have a quick look through just to see what the range is, what I actually received in this bundle, and what I've been looking at. And then, yeah, I'll show you some of the battlegrounds, just that I have put men down on. Okay, and yeah, here is some of the terrain that I received before it was painted. So as you can see, we've got it assembled, we've got it out. Lots of different configurations you can make with it. There are a couple of weird elements in here that we haven't seen, that I hadn't shown you before. So in the center, you can see there's some scatter terrain. So there's some barricades. There are some, what would you call them, walkways. And then, yeah, scattered around there are some of those ladders. The ladders, I think, if you want to do this with Kill Team or something like that, are kind of important because they do stretch up to 5 inches that you need. So I think they're about 5.5 inches for the ladders to actually get onto that next level. So it might be kind of important if that was something that you want to do. And obviously, you have the compressed Kill Team ladders before they burst out. So you could definitely use those instead to indicate where the token for the ladder is going to be. All right, this is everything I got. So this is other way around. This is one of the 9-liter boxes, which will make all of this easy to store. So once I have it all painted up, I'll varnish it good, and it'll just go back in here, and everything will tidy away. But hopefully, once we get it to the table, we're going to have a lot to work with. I painted up all mine, and because it breaks down like this, it breaks down flat, it is actually super, super handy to paint. There are obviously a few different ways of doing it. All I did here was I got myself some Colourforge sprays. It was a dark grey on everything, then a brown at the bottom, and then a zenithal of a lighter grey. And then that was it. And I feel like it came out looking pretty good. This is everything I received. So on the left-hand side, you can kind of see what I think is kind of the core part of this. You've got the roofs on top. Then on the right-hand side, okay, at the very bottom, we've got some barricades that we'll look at a little bit later. We've got those walkways in the middle, and then just above that, there are kind of walkways again. They're kind of rubbish, and like panels. A few times I've used that just sitting on the ground. It does look quite good, just kind of break up the terrain. And at the very top, we've got the ladders, which I was sprayed with brass. Again, this is the section that I think you get for the half box. So this is the amount of terrain that you're going to get if you do the half box. So in theory, the main offering is going to be double this, which I think is quite considerable. And then this is on the bottom right. I love these. These are, I think they're called Jersey barricades. So like they're rockcrete emplacements. I like it for a couple of things. Now, one of the weird things about this is the magnetization of it is slightly different. They all do have a direction because they're slanted on one side and flat on the other. And you basically need to get your polarities left to right, left to right, left to right, to make sure that it will join in the right order, if that makes sense. But because they are one direction, so they're slanted on one side and flat on the other, you will be able to work that out pretty fast. And it's just making sure that the connector points work. I believe this is going to be a add-on, and I quite like these. I think they're very, very useful. I think, again, this is another add-on. So this is walkways and ladders. We'll see these walkways from a different angle. They do have a banister, and they do have kind of weird pillory things on it. On a few occasions, I did end up turning one of them upside down to support the other, and it kind of looked like, I don't know, like a washerman's hoist, which was interesting. This is everything set up. So this is a part of a 4 foot by 4 foot mat. So I don't know. I felt like it's a pretty good amount of terrain for that space. Now I do only have the 4 buildings in there because I only got the 4 roofs, and yeah, a lot of the kind of other parts were more ruin kind of terrain. But for a 40k game, I would feel that would be very, very crowded at 4x4, and personally I would tend to kind of split it up. For a kill team game, that seems fine to me. That seems like it's quite good. Obviously we've only done the 1 layer, and there's not much verticality in it beyond the the walkways, which you can see I've set up there with the with other walkways underneath them to kind of balance them up. They're kind of half the height, and then we've got the rooftops. I didn't, in this case, put any of the ruins on top of those rooftops. Again, if I was doing a game of Kill Team, I'd probably do that, just to add a little bit more cover up top. And yeah, all right. And here we have some of it in action. So I've basically pulled out one of my Kill Team boards, got the scenery set up, and one of the great things about this is you're able to do it in lots of different ways. So it kind of gives you opportunities to kind of play around and mess with it and see what feels appropriate. Again, this is FDM. You are going to see those lines. That's just unfortunately how the technology is at the moment. The nice thing about FDM is it is quite sturdy and it is resilient, I think is the word I would use. So it is a plastic. The quality of the durability of it is equivalent to basically just a chunk of plastic, because that's literally what it is. And yeah, the FDM is kind of perfect for this kind of terrain. And here you can see I've got one of those platforms going across the top, and then we've got stairs going up. So yeah, we can get a better angle over there. So we can have guys running across things and messing around and doing things. That's just, again, the same thing, just dropped on the ground. I only sprayed that silver. I didn't do anything else with it. You might go in and kind of pick out some of the bits as, you know, where there's wood, maybe differentiate the metals, with different metals. This is one of the tops. Yeah, I can see what I was talking about earlier with those corners. So that layer on top, so that corner wall section sitting on top isn't actually connected through. So there's no magnets running between those layers, but you know, it's sturdy enough. As long as there's not some serious knocks, it's going to be fine. I've been tempted to stick them some blue tack down onto it, but that's just me. But yeah, they did feel that they were sturdy enough. Yeah, you can kind of get some great shots. I don't know. It's yeah, I've definitely enjoyed it. It has been fun to put stuff down on. I do feel it's quite tall for 40k or for Kill Team. I believe the size is specifically picked out for 40k. Something about I don't know, command ranges or something. My 40k is not very good at the moment. But for Kill Team, that might be a bit of a stretch. Like getting up to that level can be a little bit trickier. It does mean you might be a little bit more reliant on having those walkways and having those ladders to make getting up there a little bit easier. Because, yeah, moving up the full 5, you need a little bit more movement to get back onto normal base. This was with Battletech. So obviously this isn't the normal scenery that is the real focus of this Kickstarter campaign. But I do really like these Jersey barricades. And they do actually work quite well, I think, at any scale, because there's no real indication that they are 28 mil or 12 mil or 16 mil or whatever it might be. I didn't get everything on this release. So there are these barrels you can see scattered around. There's the crates. There's the sandbags, which look very, very cool. Those would all be fantastic. And the big statues. Yeah, the statues are very notable for this. One of the things that I was interested in, but I don't think they're doing for this Kickstarter, which is a bit of a shame, are these stairs and those mid-level platforms. Now, I was quite looking forward to getting those done with for Kill Team, just because having that extra level in between felt like it was going to solve a lot of the kind of climbing issues that I might have. I'm not 100% sure, so keep an eye on Kickstarter and see if it's there. And, you know, if it isn't, and if this is something you're interested in, put it in a comment and ask people on that Kickstarter what the status is and if it will be able to get that updated. All right, so let's have a quick summary as we go through everything in here. So this is a Kickstarter. SDLs are already out there, so if that's a route you wanted to go down, I don't think the guys at Mini Wargaming would be unhappy. They are offering a service here, which is kind of nice. They are going to print it for you, and they're going to ship it out. There will be a bunch of factors to take into account with that. Obviously, postage packaging is going to be an issue. you're going to have to look at import charges, or tariffs, or whatever is happening if you're in a country outside of where they're shipping from, which is, as I believe, is Canada. You are getting quite a lot of terrain. I think it is, and the way it packs down is quite nice. This price point, I think, is $250. So it isn't free. It isn't cheap. Now, the comparison point with this, in theory, is the Sector Imperialis from 40k to GW. But the reality is GW never have it in print proper. You will get bits and pieces as you go along, and I certainly have, and I quite like it. But I've spent a considerable amount of money over the years to get my Sector Imperialis going. Currently, you can get this Kill Team Vulcus box. Now, the size of this box, or the board of this box, is a quarter of what you're looking for a game of 40k. That said, the terrain's quite dense in Kill Team, so it might be reasonable to compare two of these boxes with that 250 pledge. So 160 versus 250. The difference you're getting is you're going to get much better quality on the Killzone Vulcus, because it is just going to be straight plastic. It isn't going to be, you're not going to have any print lines. However, it isn't going to break down. You're not going to be able to store as easy, and it'll be locked into that configuration. And if you're buying two of them, you're going to have duplicates across the way, which maybe isn't going to be too much of a problem, but it is a factor. The big advantage that you're going to have with this Kickstarter version is Ruins Perdition. With the Ruins Perdition, is you're going to be able to pack it down nice and tight. It's not going to take up much room, and you are going to be able to do a different setup, customize it every time you go. Ruins Perdition also is something you maybe will be able to add to, but the point we're looking at here is we're looking at the trade-off on quality versus customizability, I guess. Pros and cons. All right, so the pros. Different layouts every time, packs away small, much better price than GW, and it is specifically designed to work with 40k. So yeah, they've got the heights of the building are 40k focused, and the amount that you get is basically designed there to match with that, with the current set of tournament packs. Now the cons: you're going to get FDM layer lines. That is what it is. Unfortunately, it's just how technology is currently. And yeah, it makes it a lot cheaper than doing it in resin. And resin brings its own sorts of problems with it, like it being brittle or easier to damage. So yeah, maybe another con is that it's quite sturdy because it's FDM. I put down a con that there's no mid-level yet. So I would like to see something at that 2.5 size, just for playing skirmish games, playing Kill Team on. It just means that we can get fighters up halfway and then get them up the rest of the way later. As I said, that is something that is in with the SDLs. I believe that they're still tweaking things, they're working on things. We might see it further down the line, but there is a possibility that won't be available in this Kickstarter yet. And then the last thing is just to be aware of shipping and customs. One of the big perks is that it's a better price than GW's. If the shipping and customs throws that completely out of whack, then you're going to have to reevaluate everything. So you're going to have to work out what the benefit of that packs away small and the different layouts every time, which I think are real big perks. But for me, that better price than GW is an important consideration. And if it is the case where the shipping and custom pushes it over, maybe you're better off just picking up the GW stuff, which is a terrible thing to say because, GW prices. All right. And yeah, that's everything I've got. I have very much enjoyed playing with this. It only took me a day to put in the magnets and then to paint it all. It was very, very quick to do it. I know I didn't do super detailed. I didn't go in and pick out like any of the metalwork or anything like that. But getting it to a state where it was ready to play a game with was super, super easy and super, super nice. Check out the comments. Check out the description. I'll have a link to Kickstarter. And I'll have a link to a few other guides that the guys at Mini Wargaming have put up. So consider it. It's definitely not a definite. Uh, it is something to think about and decide whether it is right for you. But I suspect if you're a store owner, if you're someone that's limited on space, and the price ends up being right, then this could be a really good deal.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.